else want one?
No,
No,
thanks.
thank you.
Just Grandad, hurry up.
Yes, he's usually such a stickler for getting to places on time. Perhaps he's been held up in a board meeting.
Wouldn't it be something if the mug got everything?
That would be just like her.
Sorry I'm late.
So, we may begin. The last will and testament of the late Sophie Gascoigne. Now, let's get straight down to the distributions. To Stanley Barker, with whom the deceased enjoyed many a good conversation, she always said the old grandfather clock reminded her of his face. To the aforementioned, she bequeaths a grandfather clock.
I always wanted that old clock.
To the beautiful Joanne, who had nursed the deceased back to health last winter through a bad spell of jaundice, goes the portrait of Florence Nightingale Joanne so admired.
Thank you. I hated that picture.
To the knowledgeable Gerald, who borrowed many a book from the library during his school days, goes the entire book collection. May he take all that he wishes. And finally to Mrs. Sloane, who had been a loyal friend for so long, goes Judy the dog and all her possessions. May Mrs. Sloane take as much care of her as she had of Mrs. Gascoigne. Now, you're probably all wondering what happened to Mrs. Gascoigne's vast fortune. Well, I'm afraid it wasn't quite as vast as everyone expected. The house and much of its furnishings has already been sold to cover the bills that had mounted over the years. But what was left, Mrs. Gascoigne thought it would be more fitting to include it in one of the items that has been distributed. One of you is a moderately wealthy person.
Yeah, but who?
If the person who has the fortune is clever enough to realise it, then they're worthy of doing with it what they will, Mr. Barker. That's as much as I know.
Maybe it's my painting.
That's doubtful. Now that painting's it's been in the family for a long time, but it's hardly a classic. Now, I think if your Aunt Sophie had put her fortune into anything recently, it had got to be something she acquired just before her death.
Unless she hid it in something, like your clock. She could have replaced all its mechanical workings with solid gold.
And then had it disguised so it would look normal.
Well, I can't see her hiding it in Judy. I think I'll go home now. I'll take her with me for a walk. Could one of you bring a beanbag and basins?
Yes, certainly, Mrs. Sloane. Look, I'll see you out.
Judy?
I checked my clock, and it's perfectly normal. No hidden compartments of gold, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Could be something to do with my books. She could have bought some rare editions and hidden them among the other books. I'd never be able to evaluate them by myself.
No, I don't believe that books are worth a fortune, you know. Not even antique books. Unless, of course, you've got one stuffed with jewels. I'd count the books out.
But if the fortune's not there, where else can it be?
Look, let's face it. There's only one person that Sophie would leave all her money to. Mrs. Sloane.
But all she got was the mud.
And all its possessions. Perhaps she hid the money in his beanbag.
Hey. Now, it feels to me as if this bag's stuffed with beans. Mind you, it might be real diamonds. There's only one way to be sure. Yeah.
Maybe she replaced something on the dog itself. Something that's always been there, but is now authentic instead of imitation.
Good God, Joanne, you're brilliant. The collar. Why, that collar's been round a dog's neck for ages. I know it's only cut glass, but she could have replaced it with real jewels. I mean, we're so used to it, we'd have never noticed.
Crafty. Come on, let's tell Mrs. Sloane the good news. Mrs. Sloane! Mrs. Sloane! We've figured it out. The jewels are on the dogs. The collar. The collar, what happened to it?
Oh, that old thing. I got rid of it as soon as I got home. I couldn't stand it.
But we think she replaced the stones with real jewels.
She didn't. I checked.
Is that why you hurried out so fast this morning?
It would have been nice to have got something from her. "20 years. At that woman's beck and call for 20 years. And when I finally get the chance to kill her, all I get is fake jewels and a flea-bitten mutt. What a bitch."